What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in this video I want to answer a good question that I got from my buddy Eric on the Starting Strength forums. And what he asked was, based on the last video that I made about how to program while you're dieting, where I said, it's possible to gain muscle even while you diet. He said, well, in that case, what about recomposition? And for those of you guys who don't know, recomposition is the practice of basically trying to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. So the idea is that you eat right around maintenance all the time, and slowly over time you gain muscle and lose fat. Now, in my experience, this actually does work. It's just the problem with it is that in most populations, it works very, very slowly compared to simply cutting and bulking. So, for example, in novice populations where rapid muscle gain is both possible and really recommended, eating at maintenance is just a recipe for delaying your progress. Most novices, to maximize their gains in their first year, should probably be gaining 20 to 30 pounds of body weight in the first year of training. And, in that second year of training, maybe half of that. And in the third year of training, maybe half of that. These are just rough rules, right? Don't take it too literally. But the point being that for early lifters, especially novices, there's no reason to gain muscle that slowly. There's just no reason whatsoever. And if it's a fat novice, then you should just have the novice diet. And because they're a novice, putting them on a slow, sustainable deficit will result in their lifts getting better, both through neurological means and through gaining new muscle mass. This has been shown to happen in people new to training. They will gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. So there's no reason to put a novice on a recomp diet, because it's just faster if they're too fat to diet, and they'll still make strength gains while dieting because they're a novice. And for really skinny novices, it's just needlessly slow. They can make much faster progress with a true bulk. Now, things get a little bit more murky when we're talking about intermediate lifters who have to start worrying about where their weight class is and things like that. But if we define an intermediate lifter as, say, somebody who's still in year 3 or year 4, or year 5 maybe of training with proper programming and nutrition, then in my opinion, it's still overall faster for them to cut and bulk, because while they can't gain, exorbitant amounts of muscle like a true novice could, they can usually still gain muscle at a really appreciable rate with a moderate or even aggressive surplus. Now, I don't usually recommend aggressive surpluses for powerlifters because they have to mind their weight class. But the bottom line is that in my experience for intermediate athletes, in that third or fourth year, you're probably going to make faster gains and overall get closer to the weight class that you need to be in sooner by still cutting and bulking. It really becomes tricky, though, when we're talking about advanced athletes, and that's where I think cutting and bulking can kind of go by the wayside. If you're talking about somebody who's been lifting properly for 5, 6, 7 years, they're a natural lifter, so they can't up the dose and keep bulking or whatever, cutting and bulking starts to be counterproductive in my experience. And that's because for very advanced lifters, they might be lucky to gain 1 or 2 kilos of muscle per year. That's 2 to 5 pounds or so, right? That's a great year for them. And for them to do a true bulk, where they're gaining 1 pound a week or something like that, it's kind of ridiculous, because they're just going to gain so much fat as a proportion of the total weight gain that it's really not worth it. So this really leaves us with recomposition as one of the only options that makes sense. So what I would do for an advanced athlete, let's say somebody who's closing in on a high fat free mass index, they're around 25 or in that area, right? And they've already been lifting for 5 or 6 years. They're a lot closer to the genetic potential. Instead of focusing on gaining weight, I'd almost have them in like a permanent reverse diet, where anytime that their body weight goes down, you add just a little bit more food. So instead of focusing on pushing the scale weight up quickly, you focus on making sure that they're eating as much as possible, literally just as much as possible without rapid weight gain, so that they have as much recovery as possible for hard training and high volumes that the advanced lifter needs to make progress. But the focus is no longer on seeing the scale go up at any kind of appreciable rate. It's more about pushing their intake as high as possible. And then, every once in a while, the advanced athlete will need to do some kind of a mini cut, because they might, throughout the course of a year of slowly pushing their intake up, get a little too far away from their weight class. But in general, this is what I do for advanced athletes. It's not really like a true bulk anymore where, they're gaining 1.5 pounds per week, because in my experience with natural lifters, once you're at that advanced level, most of that is just fat. And there's no need to get fat really quickly and then diet it off and spend more time of the year in a deficit, because you're gaining fat every time that you bulk and you're gaining it too quickly. So again, for novices, totally unnecessary to do recomp, because they can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time on, any diet. So no real need for them to recomp anyway. For intermediates, it's arguable in certain situations that it may make sense to go after a recomp. But in general, if you're still far enough away from your genetic potential, you're going to make a lot faster muscle gains if you just do a traditional bulk, okay? If you're really far away from the optimal weight class for your height, I would still recommend that you keep cutting and bulking, at least until you're in year 5 or 6 and you know that you're close to your genetic limit for muscle mass. For advanced athletes, cutting and bulking should probably just go out the window. Focus more on pushing up your caloric intake, focus more on your recovery, focus more on making sure that your strength is going up over time, and that's how you're going to see those small 1 to 2 kilo muscle gains every year as an advanced athlete. But you probably shouldn't do traditional cutting and bulking. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say about recomposition for powerlifters. Okay, I'm focusing on powerlifters here. So, as always, my friends, good luck with your training and have a great day. Peace.